Hi, welcome to Foreigner in the Philippines. I thought I'd do a couple of comments, deal with a couple of comments, okay? And the first one that I have to deal with is the way that we name our projects. We name our projects on the basis of, I don't know, whatever is a catchy thing. Now, they're not intended to be a totally right down to the letter description of what the job is. I've said this before, that when we did the House of the Paralyzed Man, well, a lot of people would say, well, it's politically incorrect to describe someone as a paralyzed man. Well, yes, it may be, but we're in the Philippines, and when people talk about these things, they'll say, well, yes, like Pastor Timio would say, I'm going to see the paralyzed man. Or actually, he said, the bedridden man. Well, okay, so when we went to see the paralyzed man, that was the name that we said. When we said we're going to see the paralyzed man, guess what we said? That's what we said. So when we did a house for the family, what turned out to be the family of the paralyzed man, it became the House of the Paralyzed Man. So now these things change. Like, for instance, when we said the House of the Three Little Girls. Now, we still refer to that house and that family as the Three Little Girls, and then we amend it and say, oh, well, the Four Little Girls. But the Three Little Girls is the title, and it caught on, and it was so much better than saying 14 Jeffrey Street. That's why, that's the basis upon which we do our titles. Well, then it became clear after that Three Little Girls had stuck, it became clear that actually there were four little girls, but there was another little girl that was slightly older that wasn't revealed at first. So that's how that can happen. Now, why am I saying this? Well, because our dear friend Sebastian Asia, now I'm naming him because he's been with us right from the start. Dear Sebastian made himself known straight away. He makes several posts a day, and Sebastian is a numbers man. He is an accuracy man. He's a left brain thinker, right? So he tends to latch on to making things correct. And as he has said, the secret house on the mountain is not a secret house, because all the neighbours can see it. Sebastian, you must have missed a video somewhere along the way, because earlier on we used to pass that house when it was just a frame house. It was just a frame. There was no cladding on it at all. And I said to Beth one day, wouldn't it be great to go in secret, listen to the words, to go in secret with Manorado, our Superman team, and just swoop in, because it's just a frame house, the people are not there. They're not living in it, and they don't live there. They can see the house, but it's something that they wouldn't be looking at they don't go out every day and say, oh, look, there's our frame house. See, so our idea was, in secret, as a secret deed, a bit of fun, we would go in and swoop in with all the materials and just clad the outside of the house and then leave in secret. Now, why would we be doing it in secret? Just so that somebody would come in and say, my God, why would anybody do that for us? Why would anybody do such a kind deed and then not reveal themselves? Well, that's what Christ said. And we go against that all the time, because we broadcast what we do in order to get further help. But in this particular case, we could have gone in and done a pure, random act of kindness in secret, because we would not have revealed ourselves. That's why it became the secret house. Now, Sebastian, have you got it now? We never said that it was hidden in the bushes. We never said that it was hidden in some strange Shangri-La type place that nobody ever went to. It's in plain view on top of a mountain practically, and you can look in every direction and see the most incredible views. In fact, you're the one that said, I'll make them an offer on the house and the land. Well, make the offer. That's what I suggest. So, that should put to rest any further comments about how it's not a secret house, because the neighbours can see what you're doing and they'll tell the people that own the house and it won't be a secret. Right? It was never a secret house, but the title stuck. So it's still called the secret. Now it's called the secret house because it's just a kind of a catchy name, isn't it? The secret house in the mountains. So that's why. So we're left with the secret house, and happily the secret house is now done. Okay? Now what we're getting now is, because we've been showing video of the last few days, about the last week or so, so much rain has fallen, I'm sure that heaven is actually leaking. There must be a burst pipe up there or something, because it's all been falling on us, it seems. Okay, so everywhere is muddy and our little truck is struggling, and we're doing our best. Now somebody said, in your video going down the hill, you say that you've got your foot flat hard on the brake and the clutch depressed. Well, at one point, yes, that's true. At one point I do have the clutch depressed and the foot hard on the brake. Let me explain that on the way down that hill, it's called the tunnel. And it's called a tunnel because for a stretch of about 100 or 150 yards, it goes like an S-bend. Right, so it actually goes like this. And on the sides of that, it is, let's say that the truck is 5 feet wide. The tunnel is about 6 feet wide. So there's barely enough room. What are the sides? The sides are earth. It's dug into the ground, hence the title, the tunnel. Now, as it's curving and there's no traction, by the way, this is a very steep hill. This is a steep hill that if you put the truck at the top and simply remove the handbrake, it would go all the way down to the bottom, bouncing off the sides as it went. Now, when you've got a lot of people up and you're trying to make it safely to the bridge, you can't drive it, and if you don't have your foot on the clutch, the engine stalls, because you're not driving down there. So, putting your foot on the clutch means that the engine doesn't stall. But the only way that you can have any control is by doing what has now become the anti-lock brake system, which is periodic, momentary pressure on the brakes, and that's what anti-lock brakes does. In fractions of a second, it engages a brake and releases it. Engage and release, engage, release, and that's what you do on the way down the tunnel, hoping that you do not hit the sides. Now, fortunately, when we dug the tunnel out, we angled the sides of the tunnel away. So they're angled like this, off and like that. kind of like a V. And that's what it is. That's the situation. And people, it doesn't matter how many times you explain this, people cannot actually realize, they can't appreciate just what the conditions are that we're in. We're talking about mud. We're talking about a hill that is so steep that it's difficult to walk up that hill. Walking down is another thing, okay? And there's nothing to hold on to. It's not like walking down the staircase where you have a banister on either side. So, that should explain that little comment for that person there. Now, the other comments are all pretty well good news. Somebody wrote and said, what you see is what you get. Honest, Terence and Beth do what they say they're going to do, and we really do try to do that. That's exactly what we try to do. Is it perfect? No, it's not. Is it always totally correct? No, it's not. But in actual fact, it is what our mission is. Now, somebody else also wrote in and they sent us a, let me see, I'm trying to remember who this was, but I'm not always good at that. They sent us a couple of links. And one of the link was about a couple, an American, I think it was an American, which I'm not, but an expat. An expat had been taken to court for doing something about trafficking, and it turned out that actually what he was doing was similar to what we're doing. They were doing kind deeds, random kind deeds, helping people. Did he have a license? No, he didn't. Do we have licenses and permits? It turned out that the court, I never got to see the actual link because we are unable to browse up at the house, and if we go into the internet cafe, we don't actually spend any time browsing. I usually try to answer all of the comments, even if it's only like, but I read them and I do my best to handle those. And if it's a serious comment or a serious question or something like that, I really do try to answer those. So I didn't get to see the actual thing. But it turned out that the court were more interested in what was being done than whether there was a permit to do it. In other words, there was a judge there who made a judgment call that was sane. And that's the way that I like to see it. Now this came up because there had been this rumour-mongering, fear-mongering among other channels about children being found in boxes and body parts. You know, it left me, I didn't actually look at that channel. I heard second and third hand about some of the comments, from some of the comments, and it apparently made it seem like, you know, that there was something really to fear, that children, you know, were being left unattended, you know. Let me tell you something about the Philippines. Children, for the most part, 99% of the time, are totally safe. We see children walking to school who, in the West, would not have the savvy to be able to stay off the road. But children here, right from the very start, are taken by older brothers or neighbours or friends on their way to school, and they walk on the side of the road with occasional traffic whizzing by. And I don't hear about children constantly being knocked down and run over. I just don't hear it. So children are brought up with more of a traffic savvy here than they are in the West, where they are more controlled. They're more protected, if you like. But they don't learn to take care of themselves. Here, a kid knows more about that than they do in the West. That's my view on it. Right, that gets me to one of the other comments. Now, what was this comment? Let me have a drink of coffee. One of these comments, several comments about when I went to do a video of the secret house. And because I was on my way down to get materials and come back, I was by myself. And Beth wasn't there to talk to the people involved in the project. And everybody that commented said, I noticed that nobody spoke. You made the video, but nobody spoke. Everybody was silent. And somebody then made a comment and said, in the Philippines, if everybody is quiet, it means a disturbed mind. It means a disturbed mind. Let me tell you that in the Philippines, somebody being quiet means anything but a disturbed mind. If you are a foreigner and you go and ask somebody a question, they suffer not from a disturbed mind, but from a nosebleed. This is the belief, an unshakable belief, that they can't speak English good enough for you as a foreigner. So what's the answer? They don't speak. Now, with a little encouragement, as soon as I say, oh, come on now, don't have a nosebleed, and I make it safe for them to talk, it turns out that they speak English in a way that I would be proud to speak their language, and they are able to help me. But initially, they're shy about speaking English. Now, on that particular video that people commented on, Pastor Timio was there. Pastor Timio speaks English. Does he suffer nosebleeds? Heavy duty nosebleeds. You go and it's the interviewer's nightmare. When you ask a question, you have to say, you did nod your head, didn't you? You did say no, didn't you? And because he is embarrassed about speaking English, he doesn't speak. So you have to guess things. Was that a yes, or was that was a no? Yes, oh, like that. Now, when a person has received a great kindness, like we were able to do for that man with the house, the secret house, what is he going to do? Is he going to fall on his knees and say, thank you, thank you, thank you, sir, for this wonderful house? No, he's not going to do that. But there are other indications that he is saying thank you and that he is communicating. Eye-to-eye contact and a smile. The Philippine currency is a smile. When you get a smile, you know that all is well. And then there are other cases where if somebody smiles and it's what an English person would call a rueful smile, then it's one of those where they're a little bit embarrassed about something that has happened or is happening or is about to happen or whatever. So they kind of do this kind of smile. But if they're actually glad to see you, then it's eye-to-eye contact. No words need to be spoken. It can be quiet without being disturbed. So just to put that right, because another commenter said, yes, I noticed that it was very quiet. And that's when it usually means that it's a disturbed mind. It's not true. None of those guys were willing to step up and embarrass themselves with their English talking to a foreigner. And normally when I go, I would be with Beth and she would make the jokes. She would make everybody feel comfortable. She is the Wonder Woman. She is the warrior princess, my warrior princess, who I have the utmost admiration for. And she makes everything go right. If there's any problem, she laughs her way through it. Okay? So, even if everybody is silent to me, all that it is telling me is, why don't you learn the language? You are in our country. Why don't you learn the language? And I'm finally getting this into my head. Now I have Visayan dictionary on my phone, and I'm going to be working at it. So, for this little talk, this is a foreigner in the Philippines. Thanks for looking in. Hope you understand.